Good morning, everyone, once again. So I think most of the people already joined, so let us start. Yesterday, we have just stopped on the payback period. We just calculated. We said there are some pitfalls of the payback period. So far, we have done with NPV, IRR, if you just remind you. So we did the NPV, we did the IRR, we said how to calculate and how to interpret the IRR. And we said IRR is always making the NPV equal to 0. Then we just moved to the payback period. We said the payback period is just concerned about how long it takes to cover the cost. That's the only thing that is important for the payback period. And we said there's a big pitfall of the payback period. It doesn't consider time value of the money. And the time value of the money cannot be ignored nowadays because $1 today cannot be equal to the $1 tomorrow. So that's why we should take into consideration the time value. And then we applied a discounted payback period where we use time value. Then we applied average accounting rate of return. We said that how it's calculated, you just put the targets and you just calculate average of net income over the average book value. And we said how to come up with the book value as well. And we proceeded with that. And we stopped on the profitability index, PI. This is the main thing. So we done almost all of the investment criteria and how they're calculated. And we just touched some pitfalls, some disadvantages of some investment criteria, but we're gonna talk a bit more of pitfalls of the each investment criteria, specifically IRR, payback period as well, and PI as well. So this is how the discounted, we just take the present value of each cash flow and we take the discounted and we can find out how long it takes to cover the each project. This is how we calculate. Then we move to average accounting return, and it was, we said average net income over the average book value, and the book value is the historical price you pay when you purchase a certain long.
Sorry, Professor, I have very bad quality. I don't know. I cannot see text.
Oh. I have the same problem.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let me just stop and start again sharing. Just a second. Share the screen. Can you see the slides now?
Yeah, it became some better.
What about my voice? Does my voice comes properly or it's just?
It's fine.
It was yes, it's normal.
It's proper.
Okay. Thank you for informing. Okay, we talked about the last time about the average accounting return. Average accounting return was, we said is average net income over the average book value. Net income is derived from the financial statements, from the income statement is the last item we have it in the net income is the bottom line. And book value, we said, is the historical price that you pay when you purchase a fixed assets like a truck, equipment, building, machinery. When you pay certain price and you fix at that price, because whatever the price you paid for that time, you just record it at that time with that value, and we call them as a book value. So there is a market value, is as the name suggests, is the market price. And for some assets, it changes, like financial securities. They should be traded on the market value, but not for all of the financial securities. For example, bond is recorded at the bond price because the bond you are buying with the purpose to keep it till the maturity. However, there are some financial securities that are being matured within the year you purchase with the purpose to resell it, with the purpose to trade it, to make some arbitrage on that place, on that purpose. So that you may record it on a market value. But all fixed long-lived assets, we record them on a book value basis. And we depreciate them. And we said that depreciation, there are different methodologies like to depreciate an item. But in here, for simplicity, we're going to use just simplified one, which is straight line to the zero depreciation. Okay, this was the average account return. You put the target. We're gonna have some examples, and you will understand better how can calculate and what can be decision. So the main part is in here. We said that to accept certain project, your average accounting return should be more than the target. So you put the target, let's say 20%, and you calculate your average account return to be 25%, then you say that, yeah, this project is profitable, my decision to undertake this certain project. This is how we work. Okay, now let us talk a bit about the profitability index. It is more close to NPV, but with the one difference in here. It is showing like present value of all future cash flows, and we divide it here. But in NPV, we are just subtracting it. This is how we deal it with it. Okay, and if profitability index is more than 1, then your decision should be investing in a certain capital project. So capital project gives you some value. If you find it out the profitability index should less than 0, you do not invest. So what does it imply? Like, if it's more than 1, you say that for $1 I spent in this project, I generate, let's say you find out your profitability index to be 1.
Sorry, in this way, in this case, initial investment should be negative?
Very good question. No, it shouldn't be negative. It should be positive. We just accept as a positive absolute term. We do not take into consideration. So PI cannot be negative. It should be from 0 and above.
And how it can be less than 1 if it's 1 plus NPV divided by
no,
initial investment?
Don't look at. It's another way of think. Don't look at. Just look at to this part. Okay. Don't mix yourself. Don't look at here. I'm going to talk a bit about this later, but PI is present value of future cash flows divided by initial investment, and initial investment should be positive. We should consider as positive. Then if it's more than 1, let's say 1.5, then we say that for every dollar we invest, we generate $1.5. So it gives you a positive value. So it adds a value to your capital. So we do invest in such a project. We are given in here example as well. Same example that we had it yesterday. So the project with a certain cash flows, with the investment cost of 1,000, and with a required rate of return of 5%. And what will be then, period is given 4 years. The present value of future cash flows is 1,219. And therefore, profitability index is divided by 1.21, which means we should invest in this project. So it is acceptable. So we just divide it. We can see that for every dollar we spent on this project, we generate 1.21. So let me go. And calculate here. So we are given 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Investment cost was 1,000.
Sorry, quality is the same, became some worse.
Just a second, I'll
Give
correct
my
it.
screen too.
I'll correct it. I'll correct it. I'll correct it. There's something wrong there. I think it's problem with it. Just a second. Now, can you see it?
It's still a bit blurry.
The same quality.
Because today is the Friday, it's a daytime, and it's a bit tough to have a. Let me just.
Okay, just normal.
Can you see it now?
We see all,
Yes,
but
it's
except
visible.
of formula, maybe I don't know.
No, I didn't type anything. Can you see the numbers in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay. I have not typed anything yet. So 5% is the required rate of return. And if you wanted to calculate the profitability index, is the same thing that you need to take the present value. What you do in here, you just calculate this in the same way, NPV. NPV. We take 5%. We take the range value from 1 to 4 and divide, and we get NPV. So in here, we do not subtract, but we divide. We should divide by investment cost. And as you see, the investment cost is minus 1,000. In Excel, you should put minus to make it absolute term, because index cannot be negative. So we just take minus 1,000 with the minus sign. It will give you a positive number. So in here, our index is 1.21. Oops, not dollar. One more time. NPV, A2 is the interest rate. From G4 to G7, it is the range of the cash flows. You take the present value of each cash flow, you close the bracket, then you divide by minus investment cost. That would give you a profitability index. So in this case, our decision to invest in this certain project, because it gives you more than one. So in order to come up with a decision to invest in a certain project or to undertake a certain project, we have to have more than one, the profitability index. So this is the main requirement for the PI. My screen is paused. Why? You know, today my Zoom is asked me to update it, and I think it's happened due to the update. It updated by automatically and became worse. Anyway. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this was the calculation of the PI, profitability index. And now let us see graphical illustration of the NPV, how the NPV is graphically illustrated for a certain project, but with a different discount rate. So on the x-axis, we have required rate of return. On y-axis, we have net present value. This is x-axis, this is y-axis. So NPV profile intersects vertical axis at some of the cash flows. If required rate of is 0 here, okay, your NPV is here. It's the highest one. When the required rate of return is 0, your NPV is the highest. But once required rate of return increases, your NPV is going down. This explains the relationship between the rate of return, between the interest rate and NPV. So the higher the rate of return, the lower the NPV. So there is an inverse relationship. So if you want to see numerically here, so the highest one, if our NPV is, sorry, if our interest rate is 0, then NPV is 400. As interest rate or required rate of return grows, we can see here in this way, as it increases, the NPV is falling down. So it's a downward sloping curve. So there's an inverse relationship between the NPV value and interest rate. by numbers is here. So for each corresponding interest rate, we have NPV calculated, so we can see as it crosses here. So what do you think, what is the rate in here? What do we call this rate when the NPV is 0?
Internal rate of return.
Yes, very true. It's IRR. If you remember from the previous case, our IRR was equal to 12.82 something. So at this point, IRR equals to, makes the NPV to 0. So if you increase the rate more than IRR, your NPV becomes negative, and it goes negative, negative, negative. So the cross section, when it intersect the x-axis, that means that you generate the IRR in here. This is how graphically it can be illustrated. So we've got some ranking conflicts between NPV and the IRR. Both IRR and the NPV, they do consider time value. So if projects are independent, we accept NPV if it's more than 0. And the same project will produce the same results as IRR is more than cost of capital. If IRR is less than cost of capital, that means that NPV will be equal to negative value, will be less than 0. So that's why we kind of confused. So which investment criteria to use, NPV or IRR? Okay, let's go further. So whenever the NPV and IRR, they rank in a two mutually exclusive projects differently. So that means that you have to choose only one project. Mutually exclusive says that you cannot choose two projects at the same time, even though they give you a positive NPV. So you have to choose only one project, which is more beneficial, which is more profitable. And of course, the more profitable doesn't necessarily mean that you should overpass your budget. So you should go with your budget constraint as well. So our budget is not unlimited. That means we have to choose one project according to our budget. So NPV, you reinvest your cash flow at the required rate of return, which is opportunity cost, and IRR, you reinvest your cash flow at the internal rate of return. So the problem is evident in here when there are different patterns of cash flows of a different scales of the cash flow as well. That makes a really dilemma in here, which project you should run when you have a different scales of the cash flows and when you have different patterns of this cash flow. By patterns, I mean in here, different signs, like different values of during the cash flows. Sometimes there is no guarantee that all the year your cash flow will be positive. Is there any guarantee? No, nobody can tell you that you have surely for all years your future cash flows will be positive. There can be cases you incur losses. So in that cases, this creates a problem. And another story is when their scales of cash flow is different. It changes decision as well. We're gonna look at it. Here, consider two mutually exclusive projects, Project P and Project Q. As you can see, in Project P, first 3 years, our cash flow was 0. So we didn't generate anything. But after, in Project Q, we can see that our cash flows, all of them are fixed as same. So there's some money on it. So which one to choose? But if you sum like 33, 33, 66 plus 66, 132. So which project would you choose? So you have to calculate NPV and IRR. Let's calculate what's going to happen. Let's see. So Project P, so we tried with a 0 interest rate here for Project P. Our NPV becomes 42 for P, and Project Q is becoming 32. But before coming to evaluation of the NPV, let's look at to the IRR. So which project would you choose as an IRR? Q or P?
Q.
Q, yes, we choose the higher one, true. We choose the higher IRR. Q, we choose this one, according to IRR. But let's see according to NPV. But NPV decision will change as interest changes. Look, if it's 0, we choose P. If it's 4%, we choose P. If it's 6%, we choose Q. If it's 10%, we choose Q. That's it. If it's 14%, we choose none of them. We do not choose any of them. So in here, yes, please, your
Excuse me.
question. Yes.
Can you again explain this slide, please? I didn't understand.
Yes, yes, surely, surely, of course, of course. I'm gonna go again from the beginning. Now, according to IRR, don't look into this table. According to IRR, this is NPV. According to IRR, we should choose project Q. We choose the higher IRR. So the higher the IRR, the better the project. This is the condition to accept the project itself. But we cannot choose both of the project. We have to choose only one because it's a mutually exclusive project. So if interest rate, if required rate of return is 0, which project would you choose? P or Q? You will choose
Q.
with the P. Why P? We choose with the higher. So which project will you choose which gives you more money, which gives you more profit?
It's a higher cash flow, so we'll get we'll choose
Yeah, yeah.
P because
Okay.
of higher.
Yes, very true. Very good. We're gonna choose because if I offer you $100, if I offer you $200, which?
Sorry, I
Yes,
have one question. Can you
Yes,
show
please.
previous table
yes, surely.
when were P and Q?
Yeah.
No, oh, yes, this one. We can choose only Q because we'll get cash flows more often. You'll get it's a principle of time value. It's like a
Yeah, we
dollar
have to
today
consider.
worth more than dollar tomorrow, for example.
Marlene, you are kind of true, but in here you're making mistake. What kind of mistake? You have to take net present value. I mean, you have to bring all future cash flows to the year today. So what is the having this value today? So if I have 1 million after 20 years and it is equal only to $10 today, so what is the meaning of having 1 million after 20 years? If it's only equal today. So we are trying to compare with the value today. So if in order to answer the question which project you should choose, it is you should apply NPV for each cash flow. Even though we don't have any cash flows in here, but in here we have in every year, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the NPV will be higher for this project. You need to see it. And we are going to see it in the next slide. So the next slide is applying different rates.
Okay.
If I go to the previous slides here, I want you to pay attention here. The problem is evident when there are different, first, patterns of the cash flows and the different scales, I mean the size of the cash flow. Patterns, it means the sign, whether negative or positive, and the scale means the size. So now we are touching the problem with the size, with the scales of cash flow, because when the scales of the cash flow changes, the decision on NPV, decision on IRR will change as well. So this is the problem when we face it. That's why we said, then I'm going to tell you, according to which investment criteria you should always make your decision. No matter what projects you accept according to IRR, payback rule, PI, but your decision should be based on a last resort investment criteria, which is NPV. Okay. Now, this project is given. Now we have a scale issue in here, scale problem. Because you see in here, we don't receive anything, but in here we receive like equal amounts every year. But at the end, in the fourth year, we receive 142. Let's do it in this way. in Excel, I think you're gonna, can you see the Excel?
Yes.
Yes,
So if
we
I
see Excel, but we don't see formula in
not yet,
higher.
I didn't apply anything yet. Wait. So our investment cost is minus 100, minus 100. So in here we receive 33, 33, 33, 33, equal amount. But in here we don't receive anything. In here we receive $142. Let's calculate NPV with a 0 interest rate. Okay, we assume there is no time value. So everything is perfect, everything is working smoothly. There is an efficient equilibrium in the long run. There is no inflation. Everybody's happy. So which project then you should choose?
The first one,
First one, why? Because it gives you,
the bigger amount of profit.
it's directly as
Equal-
142 minus 100, which is
42.
And in here,
It will be 32.
Minus
$32. So this is our investment. Perfect. So we choose 42 project. So we choose project. This is P. This is Q. Let me just highlight. Okay. Now let us apply the NPV of not 0, but I think it's 4%. NPV. I open the bracket, choose the rate. Sorry, I can put it just 0.04. Close the bracket. Choose the cash flow range and close the bracket. Minus investment cost. Let me just see whether I'm correct or not. Yeah, correct. I'm going correct. So 21 here. Okay, perfect. So my NPV for second project. So which project I should choose if NPV is 4%? Definitely project P. We choose P. That gives you more. But what if NPV is not 4 but 6%?
Лучше так не делать, она формула смещается каждый раз.
So if I have to fix this one then. So there's a thing that you can fix it so it doesn't merge with the other cells. If you fix this one, this range will be always this range for this. And we can just change it, the rate plus investment cost will be fixed as well. We can fix it. Okay, 12, and I can apply this. And if I just drag it down and make this one 6%. So now if NPV becomes 6% of rate, then we're gonna choose project
Q.
Q. Let me make it like this. So if in first two NPVs, I will choose this project. In here, I'm gonna choose this project. If NPV becomes, I'm mistaken, 10%. So I change the rate. And this one, NPV becomes 10%. So I choose project Q when NPV is 10%. Then when NPV is 12%, and NPV in here is 12%. So it still gives you the positive value. And if it is 14%, let's make it 14. But in here, so in here it started to give a negative value. And our IRR is equal to we just drag, close the bracket, 9%, and just make it bigger. So according to IRR, we're gonna choose project Q because it gives you higher IRR. So we're gonna choose this project. But which project to choose, you don't know yet. So because the interest rate changes, we can see that because of the scale of the cash flows, the NPV changes as well. Even though with the 4 and 6%, with the 0 and until 4%, you're gonna choose a project P, but after the 4%, you're gonna choose project Q. So that is the issue of scale of the cash flows. It affects the NPV. But IRR tells you always to choose. In all cases, IRR tells you to choose here. So this is the makes you to think about the IRR validity, whether the IRR can be used as a valid investment criteria to come up with a certain decision whether you should run the project or not. So you should reevaluate everything and say, okay, guys, I have to think because the IRR is not the best investment criteria that I rely on that. So for me, the best investment criteria is the NPV because NPV is directly measuring the monetary term. It measures the value of the money.
No voice.
Hello? Can
Ah,
you
yeah,
hear me?
yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Nice. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, as you in here select project Q according to IRR, but why you should not select according to IRR? Because as interest rate changes, your NPV will change. That means that you should not rely on the IRR. This is what it says because there is a scale of this cash flow affects the results. But for the IRR, no way. It doesn't matter. Whatever the case, your IRR is greater for Q but less than for P when it comes to the scale. That's why we said if you select your project, you should select according to the NPV. Okay, let's go back. So in here you accept, reject, reject. So at the end you don't know which project to accept because, and as I told you, for simplicity, we are assuming that the interest rate or the required rate of return does not change, it remains the same. But when it comes to the reality, in real life, every year the interest rate will change. Interest rate is different from one year to another year. So that's why there's another way to calculate the NPV with a different interest rate, but you're not responsible now. But you have to know how to calculate it to come up with a certain decision with assumption that the interest rate will be ceteris paribus, like it doesn't change, stable. So we can see the project of NPV with the P and Q. You can see it's downward slope in both, but in some place, project of NPV is becoming higher. Project of Q of NPV is becoming higher because the interest rate pushing up due to the scale of the cash flows. But the IRR does not change. And coming as additional part of the IRR, there is another pitfall of the IRR. We call it as multiple IRR, which means in here that in one project you may have more than one IRR. As we said, IRR, it makes your NPV equal to 0. When it's more than one IRR, it means that you will have your NPV equal to 0 more than one in a certain project. So you have to be very careful. So when you have a multiple IRR issue, so then it makes you to confuse more. Then what should I choose then? Which project then? If, okay, in one project I have 2 different IRRs, but which IRR I should use it? In one, I'm talking about, guys, in one project. Like in one project, you have more than one IRR. Like I'm not talking about 2 different projects and 2 different IRRs. If it's like 2 different projects with 2 different IRRs, you're gonna choose the highest one. But if it's there are two different IRRs in one single project, then you're kind of in a paradox. You don't know which IRR to choose. In here, choosing the highest IRR doesn't work. So here's the example. This is the regular cash flows we have. Investment outlay with a negative sign, and you have positive, 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 no problem. Then you have one IRR here, definitely. But if you have 2 negative outlays, if you have 2 negative cash flows, that means you should have in your project more than one IRR. So this will affect your decision. So this thing as well, and sometimes it happens there is no cash flow. So this affects as well. So 2 patterns in here. One is scale of cash flow, and there is a pattern of cash flow, like changing the sign of the cash flow. Guys, give me 1 second. Let me just drink the water. I'm coming. Sorry guys, got thirsty, that's why I couldn't just talk. Okay, so here's another example, like non-conventional cash flow patterns, like with a negative signs in here we can see that as well. Like here we have negative sign, here we have negative sign, here we have negative signs, and here we have negative signs. So that really influences the changes of the IRR. That makes the IRR to take the place more than once in a certain project. So when we got the example, we have the better idea what we're talking. So in here, we given an example, they consider the fluctuating capital budgeting with the following end of the year cash flows in millions. So what is the IRR of this project? So what we can see here, first, IRR takes the place in here. Your NPV with this IRR will be equal to 0. Then as the time proceeds, then your NPV will become, so you can see this is the required rate of return. And your IRR is here as well. So in a single project, you have more than one IRR. So what is the problem in here, guys? That IRR is not reliable due to this main reason. This is the main reason why the IRR cannot be used as reliable investment criteria, because we said that IRR, if it's higher than investment cost, required rate of return, if it's higher than the required rate of return, we should accept the project. But this is IRR, which is higher. But what about this one? This one is lower. So that means we should not accept that project according to IRR. According to this IRR, we should not accept. But according to this IRR, we should accept. So which IRR we should use? But it doesn't necessarily mean that we should choose always the highest IRR in a single project. So this is the biggest pitfall of the IRR. It cannot be used to measure or to evaluate a certain project to come up with a decision to undertake or not. So you should keep in mind. I will ask you the question. I will give you the many. Now I'm going to solve some questions. How you'll see it. What I'm talking. Let's say we are given a certain project here, project A and project B. Mutual exclusive, cutoff period is 3 years, required rate of return is 15%. So let's calculate the NPV first. NPV, open the bracket, we choose the rate 15%, we select it. I'm fixing my rate because my rate is not changing. When you put the $sign here, it's F4. If you just press F4, it's just fixing the sign in Excel. Okay. So my range is B7, B11. Sorry, it's not the B7, B11. It's a B8 and B11 because I'm considering the investment cost here. I'm closing the bracket. Not have to close the bracket here and minus investment cost. My NPV is equal to $177, but for the second project, my NPV is equal to $242. Let me check it. Yes. So according to NPV, I will select project B. If you want to calculate the IRR, range value of all values here, 48%, and IRR for this. So with this, we can see I'm selecting project A. I'm selecting the highest project. Payback period, it tells you how long it takes to cover your investment cost. But in here, we can see that anyone who can tell me, who can help me to calculate the payback rule, payback period in here for project A.
Less than 2 years?
240 plus this, 115. How many years?
1 year.
1.4.
1.13. Okay.
1 plus 115 divided by 290.
1.4 approximately.
Okay. Did you get how did I calculate? Look, first year I used the full amount to cover it, and what is left? 115 left to be covered. And this 150 I'm going to get from 290. I'm just dividing and getting the number of the years. Same thing in here, in project B.
$2.13. 40.
45, which means 2 plus, oops, sorry. $45 divided by 2.40. Very good that you already calculated. And profitability index, we just get the NPV. I'm just copying it and pasting here.
I'm sorry. I have a question regarding PI.
Yes, please. What is your question?
Previous class in Principle of Finance, we had a different formula for calculating PI.
You use different formula. Yes?
NPV minus cost over cost.
Plus cost.
No.
It's the same. He calculated 1 plus NPV divided by investment. Investment is cost.
Yes, it's the same thing. The main, whatever you get, how did you calculate? Tell me.
NPV minus cost. Initial.
NPV minus
Over-
cost.
Initial outlay gain.
I mean, you did it in Excel as well, yes?
No, we were solving by hand.
Okay, I mean, what you are doing here, NPV is what? Look,
NPV. Yeah.
NPV, what you are doing, NPV is equal to its present value of cash flows, yes? Minus investment cost. This is NPV, isn't it?
Mhm.
So what you're doing, why you have to subtract again? What you do here, again, you're subtracting minus investment cost, isn't it? What you did it. And this all,
Mm.
you divided by investment. This is what you did it, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So I'm doing what? I'm not calculating this. I'm just eliminating this. I'm directly using like this, present value of cash flow divided by investment. But in Excel, when you calculate NPV, it doesn't mean that you're calculating present value of cash flows minus investment cost. It just calculates the summation of present value of the cash flows. This is what NPV means in Excel. And then separately, I'm subtracting investment cost, or separately, I'm dividing by investment cost.
Okay, now I got it. Thank you.
Okay. So profitability index is the NPV, is the summation of the present value of cash flows here, closing the brackets, and I'm dividing by investment cost. Oh, I didn't put the rate. That's my bad. My rate is 15. My range is this. Divided by minus investment cost. 1.61, making like this, 2.16. So according to this, we're gonna choose project B. So look, according to NPV, we choose B. According to IRR, we choose A. Payback rule, we choose A. But according to profitability index, we choose B. So which project to choose?
V.
B. It's still uncertain. 50-50.
Because it has higher NPV.
Very
NPV
good.
scheme. Yes.
Yes, we always
criteria.
choose according to NPV. We always do our selection according to NPV. NPV is the best investment criteria. NPV is the best investment it's the best investment criteria. All other criteria, other investment criteria have pitfalls. Pitfalls, I mean disadvantages. So this is the reason why we choose according to NPV. NPV is the best investment criteria. So no matter what happens, we choose according to NPV. Why? Because the NPV, it does consider the value, time, it does consider the cash flows, it does consider the scaling, everything. So it just directly showing you the additional amount of value into your capital project. So this is the main thing that we are mostly concerned. So no matter what happens, we choose according to NPV. This is, you should keep in mind, just fix it and just hamper it with hamper, that's it. Nothing can be changed to any project. So IRR, it has pitfalls, scale patterns, scale changes, pattern, cash flows, payback rule. There are some disadvantages, like it doesn't consider time value, but another disadvantage, it does not consider the cash flows after the cutoff period. Do you know what does the cutoff period means? Cutoff period means you put the limitation in number of years that the payback rule should.
Wait.
It's a limitation in number of years. You should not accept any project which goes beyond the 3 years. So for us, it's important to have until 3 years. If it doesn't cover in 3 years, you do not accept according payback rule. But if it covers within the 3 years, you accept. But the problem is that it ignores the cash flows after the cutoff period. So whatever the cash flows comes like in the 4th and the 5th year, they do not consider it. So just cut. So NPV is the best investment. Okay, I think the time is over as well. I'm done for today, guys. If you have any questions, I will be pleased to answer.
Excuse me, so you said that it doesn't matter what show other criteria, right? Like
Yes. Yes.
We always show by like we always choose by NPV.
Okay, you may ask me a question as well. I think it's raised in your mind. Why then we should use this IRR payback rule, PI, discounted payback, and the others if we know that NPV is the best? Yes, you might ask this question. Then what is the need to use this? Like it's just waste of time. However, in order to know what is the black, you should know white. So this is the principle is applied in all subjects. We should know, how do you know that NPV is the best? You should compare with those investment criteria that has got some disadvantages in their investment decisions.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yes, I have.
Yes, please.
You said about cutoff period, 3 years. Does it mean that we shouldn't include the 4th year cash flows into our calculations?
Yeah, it means that we should not take, we are not taking consideration the 4th year. We are not caring about the 4th year cash flow. In the payback rule, we are just covering the cost, and the covering cost should be done in 3 years, not more than 3 years. If it's less than 3 years, it's acceptable. But okay, we see that both projects are less than 3 years, but it does not necessarily mean that we should accept both projects, because there is another conditions which is mutually exclusive. That means that we should accept only one, and that should be the lower one, the less in terms of number of years.
No,
Yeah.
I mean that in NPV we should include all of the cash flows despite the cutoff period.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
NPV as well?
NPV, it considers all the cash flows in all years, but the payback rule, it considers only those cash flows that covers the cost. That's it. Whatever
Okay.
comes after, it
Take
doesn't
all
take into
4 years.
consideration.
Yes.
Sorry, can you repeat again?
In NPV, we take all 4 years, right?
Yes, all of the cash flows, yes.
Okay.
So that's it.
That's it. If you don't have any questions, you can leave. Thank you very much for your attending.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Sabırcan, you can stay. Yes, Sabirjan. I'm listening.
Hello. Yeah, I have a few questions.
Yes,
Not
please.
not regarding the topic or the content, because for
Mhm.
now it's all clear.
Yes.
But I took principles of finance and financial institutions and markets a long time ago, and some of the things I have a bit forgotten a bit. So I just wanted to ask, what should I like catch up on or remember in my free time in order to understand this better?
Do you have any problems now? What is the important thing, please? If you have any questions during the class, even the thing that you don't remember, the one I might skip while explaining, assuming that you know it, but please just stop me and ask me about it, okay? To remind you, it's not a big deal.
Mhm.
But
No, for now it's all clear for now.
okay, then great. Just you don't need to review anything. You don't
Really?
need to review. Yes, just go with the lecture. If you feel that you cannot understand the subject, then you can think that I'll have to review. But if you everything is clear, then it means that you didn't forget anything yet.
So for now, the most important parts are the capital, the budgeting, and everything else.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is where we should pay attention. So it's
Okay,
very
sure.
okay.
Mhm.
Any
Thank you.
questions more? This was the
No,
question.
no, thank you. That's it.
Okay. See you then.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.